Hey everybody, it's Coach JP, Hook and Cross Fitness. Today I'm going to give a little short seminar on hand wrapping. So the wraps, we want to make sure we're using 180-inch wraps, not the 120s. In my experience, they're too short to provide any decent amount of support. Secondly, you want to make sure you get elasticated or Mexican style wraps. If I show you this, you can see as I pull on it, it stretches a little bit. Don't wrap the bandage too tight, otherwise you'll restrict the blood flow to your fingers. The way to check that, once you've wrapped your hands, pinch your finger, and if it goes from white to pink, you're okay. If it stays white, then the wrap is too tight, unwrap it. The third thing is, we want to roll up the wraps, but most people roll them up. They start with the thumb loop inside, and then they put the Velcro around the outside to secure the wrap in a roll. So that's okay, but you're going to put the thumb loop on first in most cases. So if you want to have the thumb loop on the outside of the wrap and the Velcro on the inside, because that's the last thing that goes around your hand, it's just going to speed up your hand wrapping. I like to secure it with a rubber band or an elastic band, as we say in the UK, lackey band. Put it on the outside. You can also put the thumb loop inside the last loop, and that tends to hold it reasonably secure. What we're going to want to do is we're going to wrap up our hand so that we get separation of the fingers at the knuckle joint. So when I make a fist and when I make contact with that fist compresses. So even though I've got my fist here, you can see as I squeeze my hand, there's compression. The bones, the cartilage, and all the muscles and things like that all press in together, and that can cause damage over time. So what we want to do is make sure that these are separated at the finger. We also want to make sure that the knuckle is padded as much as possible. We're going to be hitting with the front of the knuckle here. So the padding wants to go along this line here. We don't hit with the back of the knuckle here, generally. This knuckle that protrudes out the front there, that's your main point of striking, particularly between these fingers here. You see that follow that line up my arm. You can see how it follows that forearm muscle, the one that's flexing right there. So that's the point of contact we hit here. If we want to hit down the center, all the force goes down the arm. Okay, and the last thing is the thumb. We want to wrap the thumb because we want to prevent hyperextension of the thumb, which means the thumb gets pushed back. Now, most gloves, modern day boxing gloves, have the thumb taped like this, so the thumb is attached to the main fist, so you're not going to get hyperextension of the thumb, but we're going to wrap for it anyway. So first things first, we want to get our wrap, a 180 inch Mexican wrap. I like to hold the thumb loop with my thumb. You can put it around if you want, but I personally prefer like this because of what's coming next. I'm going to wrap around my open knuckles like this. So I want this to be my hands as wide as possible here. 3, 4, I like 5. If you've got smaller hands, you can go 6. If you've got massive hands, you might have to only go 4. Once I've wrapped around my knuckles 4 times, see this loop? I'm going to slide that off my fingers. This now makes a pad. Look at that cushion here. All of that wrap is going to go on the front of my knuckle here, where I make that point of contact, because I want to be able to put my fingers in my knuckle, into my palm, and close my fist tight. The tighter my fist is, the harder I can punch, the more force goes through my hands. So I want as much of the tape, the wrap, as possible on the front of my knuckles, providing cushioning, or around my joints, providing support as possible. All that stuff on the palm, in my opinion, is wasted. So we're going to put the pad on the knuckle. Now, usually get somebody else to hold it for you, or you can put the pad down on something. You can also hold it in place with your chin and come around. So you're going to wrap around the bottom of the hand like this, over the top of the pad. Now see, half of the knuckle pad is covered and half is around the fingers. That's holding it in place at the bottom. I come around the palm and I cover the back half. So now you can see some of the tape is holding the pad at the back end. You can either go around the palm one more time, you've got smaller hands, or at this point you can go straight to the wrist. Now the knuckle pad is held over my knuckles, you can see like that. All of that, my point of contact. The padding is where I'm going to be hitting with. We go around the wrist one time. From here, I'm going to go up to the thumb joint. Go around the thumb and back over to the wrist. So I'll show you that again. So we've gone around the wrist. We go over the thumb joint, around the thumb joint, and back over the wrist. Then you go around. You can either do the thumb again for a second time. Again, if you've got smaller hands. If you've got bigger hands, you might run out of tape if you go around the thumb twice. If you've got previous thumb injuries, you might want to go around the thumb twice. I personally want all that padding up in the fingers and the knuckles, so I'm going to go back straight to my finger. So from this point, I'm going to go from the base of my thumb, which is going to be the root of the wrapping. I'm going to go from the base of my thumb in between my pinky finger and ring finger. Okay, I'm going to pull that through. Ideally, tuck any spare wrap in there. Now, from this point, I'm going to pull it in. I'm going to squeeze my knuckle tight. I'm going to pull the tape. Then when I open my hand again, you can see how it tightens up. So let me do that again. I'm going to pull it through, close my knuckles, and then open up my hand. You see how it tightens up. From there, we're between the knuckle, the pinky knuckle, we're going to go to the bottom of the index finger, then over the knuckle. So I'm going to do that again. Between the fingers, to the bottom of the index finger, and over the knuckle. There, we got one more pad across the knuckle, there. From there, back to from the pinky finger here, we're there, around the base of the thumb, and we're back to our starting point. This time we're going to go in between the index finger and ring finger, push any spare tape back, so we've got more padding at the knuckles. Again, to the index finger, over the knuckle, back to the wrist. Last time. This time, between the middle fingers. That's the last wrap. Now, from here, you've got a couple of choices. You can either come back to the index finger and do the same thing we did before, or if you've got a little bit of extra space on your wrap, you can go underneath, push it back through to the index finger, pull it through here, and out, pull this tight. I now have a nice little knuckle bar inside where I can close my fist around that. That closes around the fingers, provides cushioning underneath the fingers. And then from there, I can come back to the index finger. Okay, so for the rest of that, we've gone through that middle finger. This time I'm not gonna go under the guard. I'm just gonna come back to the index finger. I'm gonna go over the knuckle one more time. Here's where we get to the wrist. From the knuckle down to the edge of the palm, we're gonna go over the wrist, sorry, and we're gonna go down, creating this long angle here. Then I'm gonna come around the wrist, and then I'm gonna go back up. And if you noticed, I've made this X shape. Okay, so I'm gonna go down and then back up. There's the X shape here. If I've got enough, I'm gonna go down and back up again. If I don't have enough, because I've a lot more on my knuckles, if I've got strong wrists, I don't necessarily need that much support, which is me. For you, you may want to go 2 or 3 times. If you've got narrow wrists and narrow forearms, you might definitely want to go around 2 times. Then once I've gone down, I've come back up. I'm going around the wrist one more time. I want to get this Velcro part as close to the thumb joint as possible. And then I want to come around underneath the wrist and attach the Velcro here. That way, I've got a nice tight bit right at the thumb, and that's going to prevent hyperflexion of the wrist. Then I want to pull down on the palm to expose my palm. I'm going to roll up this and tuck it into the fingers there. So now I've got a nice knuckle bar, and I can close my fist around the knuckle bar, get my fingers right into my palm, lock my thumb over the top, and I've got all of this cushioning. So when I make contact, all of that padding is up at the front. You can see the support for the various joints here. There's 3 muscles down the back of the wrist there that are well supported with the crisscross, and all of the directions going into separating those finger joints there. And now that's my hand wrap.
Yeah, I'm all in. Brody on the line, I'm tapping in. God out here pulling the strings for me. A girl on the line, she feeling me. Preoccupied by the motivation. Put in the time, pay the entry fee. Bro on the rise, yeah, he kinda nice. Inside of my mind, no one's real as me. Lately, life has been gorgeous. Wake up to clear, my eyes hit record. Swinging and miss, got me hitting these licks. I get the orders, don't get it distorted. Disconnected, I've been cordless, I've been cordial, I've been exploring. I got a whole lot, but somehow I want more of it. Yeah, I went to tour and put on for the soil. Hey, bruh, remember they used to ignore us? Now they drop me the pin with the cord and they catch me running through they ordinance. Remember we couldn't afford the whip. Pushing and scraping, that shit was so ageless. We blowing on grapes for the flavors. All of a sudden we major, still independent but no label. For now I'm going hard enough that the streams will lead to a house by the beach. All of this done with the speech. Filling my pockets for now, for later. I want the picket for some sign of the neighbors. I used to skip out on the payments. Nowadays I tax for the labor. Dog on the line, yeah, he tapping in. I'm staying clear, fake rapper friends. Kamikaze on